time for our next keynote. Secure your third-party risk program with Sustainable Procurement. Now, my guest is Todd Boehler, Senior Vice President of Strategy at vendor risk management company ProcessUnity.
Great.
Hi, Todd.
Sean. Nice to meet you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Very good, very good. A great session before this one. I was just listening to a really good topic, yeah.
And so today, Todd, you're going to be talking about risk management and the challenges that this is presenting with companies. Something you've got long experience in, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we and let me know when we should get into it here. But hopefully, looking to give some insights that we see our customers looking to tackle their third-party risk challenges, especially in the world of ESG risk, ESG sustainable procurement. How are these practices getting into workflow? How are people becoming aware of how to incorporate new domains of evaluation and due diligence before you bring on products and services to your business? And hopefully give some folks some ideas around some things they can do tactically to get started if they haven't already.
Well, yeah. Looking forward to it, Todd. The stage is yours.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Hello, everybody. So a little bit about myself. I run strategy for ProcessUnity. ProcessUnity is a SaaS provider of third-party risk management solutions. We help customers in procurement or under the Office of Information Security to automate their third-party risk programs, really looking to provide an integrated third-party risk management program from procurement to CISO, from onboarding to offboarding. We help organizations big and small globally in automating and understanding risk faster for their third parties and being able to realize decisions that need to be made inside of their programs, whether that's pre-contract due diligence and getting better provisions into the contract to manage behaviors of those third parties, or continuous monitoring. After you've onboarded that third party and things change with that third party, how do you monitor the changes there and take action where you can influence their behavior to match your corporate culture, as well as managing risk better and potentially even cost efficiency gains. So for the agenda today, just hopefully give a little bit of insight, like I said, on sustainable procurement, the way that we've seen it, the way that we see our customers growing. We have customers globally, of course, and I think it was mentioned on the previous session here. Certainly, there are regulations starting in Europe that are very strong, and those are tending to move east to west in terms of development in practice. But aside from that, there's also just a initiative out there, right, from investors and brand awareness and doing the right thing to gain efficiencies and better behaviors from your supply chain in terms of the products and services they're offering that, again, match your corporate initiatives and goals. So hopefully we'll talk a little bit about that today. So, right, what is sustainable procurement? I think most of the folks here understand what that is. It's incorporating ESG risk management into the process of procurement, right? Procurement is looking to perform actions such as sourcing, understanding line of business categorization of what products and services they want to bring on board, performing the appropriate evaluation of which vendors or suppliers are going to be contracted with your organization, and then evaluating, through that process, what behaviors are you looking to enforce on them that are going to match, your practices with environmental and social welfare, right? You're really caring about not just what they do specifically, but also what's their impact potential to your reputation. Certainly, regulatory pressures are always there, but it's more than just that, right? So why start a sustainable procurement program, right? I think we've heard about it and seen it. There's pressures on both sides. There's the regulations. Certainly, the German Supply Chain Act is a very strong example of taking a very detailed and structured approach to regulations around sustainability and around ESG risk management, as well as others that are now looking to take what the German Supply Chain Act has defined and move it further, west into other areas of adoption as realization happens across what that regulation is impacting globally, actually. And then the second reason for doing it, of course, is investor pressure and good practice, right? They're looking for organizations to embed, ESG related principles and programs in the organization. And a large part of that is not just how you yourself are managing ESG within your organization, but also how your third parties are doing that and how their fourth parties are doing that, and all the way down the line. So it's really important to, understand that if you haven't started yet, how do you start to get organized around that? And why are you doing it? And talking to your management around programs that you need to invest in, but also to look at what are the positive outcomes that you're going to get from investing in an ESG program that includes sustainable procurement as a key facet to that program. Obviously, the data shows, right? There's an increase in activity, right? It's the right thing to do. It's a mandatory thing to do. And more organizations are starting out their programs and understanding what they're going to bring on in terms of third parties, why they're going to contract with certain third parties and why they won't. And, in the past, you've got due diligence reasons in terms of financial risk, anti-bribery and corruption, cybersecurity risk. You've got financial risk, and now there's ESG risk, right? So there's a new risk that needs to be included in your pre-contract due diligence, as well as in your ongoing monitoring for understanding your third parties' practices for how they're going to provide their goods and services to you in a way that is going to align to your ESG program, right? And so these things this is not, I think, just a temporary trend. This is a long-term commitment that we're seeing by organizations to embed and insert and install ESG program management in their business and being able to support that across their organization, not just within procurement, but across all facets of how they run their business, for these requirements, right? The benefits are multitude here, right? Again, there you've got the stick and the carrot, if you will. Regulatory requirements, certainly benefits are being compliant in enforcing that. I don't see a lot of, in the U.S., a lot of strict enforcement to date in terms of these regulations where there's a lot of teeth. However, you can see as these things develop and trends across organizations and global markets increase and these practices are proven, there will be more and more ability for regulators to impart their force against that. And so certainly you want to be ready from a regulatory perspective, but more importantly on the business side, it really has a lot of benefits to it, right? There is a realization of investment that you're going to need to make, but you're going to make a better brand. You're going to be a better steward of the planet. You are going to do the right thing from an ethical and work environment and labor perspective. And those things are generally considered very positive globally, right? And that's a big reason why I think management and investors and the board are asking these questions to their organizations about how are we approaching it? What are we installing? How are we going after those different aspects, into the sustainable procurement, area. Right. And when we take a look at some of, these details, right, within ESG, what does ESG mean from a metrics perspective? What type of things are being considered in terms of the due diligence and how do you look at these suppliers? We're talking about, things of environmental nature, social, governance, and financial, and being able to really say, look, if we're going to install a program into our organization that then will carry on to how we evaluate our suppliers, we should have a metric-based program, right? We should be understanding where we are, where we're trying to go, and really categorize what type of business are we, how much of these different metrics does our business consume and provide, And so that we focus the right amount of effort in the right areas based on the company that we are. Doing all for everybody is difficult, right? So you can't do everything all at once. You want to be able to prioritize what you need to start with. You want to focus on the highest risk areas for your business, and you want to get those right. And then you want to be able to follow up over time, because time and resources is coveted in today's age. You want to be able to, really understand which areas you're focusing on first, second, and third. And this is a program that really institutes itself like third-party risk management. It's not a 1 year and done. It's not you're compliant with the German Supply Chain Act in year one, and so you can check the box and not do anything anymore. It's part of the process that you need to go through. It has to be embedded in how your line of business users ask for products and services, how your procurement teams are evaluating, how the subject matter experts understand what they're getting from those suppliers. And then certainly within the contracts and ongoing monitoring when changes occur, how can you check and monitor your suppliers so that they're staying in compliance with your best practices, with what you've asked them to do from a sustainable perspective, and being able to actually talk to them, at renewal time, to be able to improve their behavior. We have a lot of customers that, they'll do risk management, they'll do performance assessments, they'll look at contract obligations like SLAs, 60 days before the renewal for a contract with a supplier. And you're able to come to the table with that supplier and really impact how they are acting on your behalf and providing you products and services. And, sustainable procurement is no different. There's these areas and these metrics are things you want to be able to scorecard them with, to work with them on improving what they do, because that's obviously going to improve how you consume and how you are using their products and services from that perspective, right? So, what steps to achieve, right? I mean, obviously depends on where you are. There's a maturity curve here. Some organizations, like our previous session, are far down the road of implementing and executing these plans. Other organizations that are smaller are still just talking about this at the management level and trying to understand, is this its own program? Does it fold into our risk program? How are we adopting the practices that we want? Should we start with third-party risk and start to ask ESG questions of our third parties if we're not even doing that ourselves yet? So there's an order of events, I think, that we've seen develop, but it always depends on the maturity of where your business is at, what your key stakeholders are talking about, what your investors and your board level initiatives are, and then being able to do a top-down enforcement or development and investment in what that program means to you, right? So from a baselining your current practices, what do you do today, right? Establishing that baseline and knowing where you're at in your program journey and where you're trying to get to is really important. There are great opportunities for you to incorporate, ESG data sources into your program so that you can get a better line of visibility without slowing down your onboarding process for suppliers, products, and services. Cycle times mean a lot here, and you don't want to just create something that creates more time into that cycle to get your line of business users what they're after. But you do want to be able to do the right thing. So, taking a look at where you're at in your journey and determining where you can automate is really important here. Once you identify that gap, it's a matter of developing the action plan and communicating it, as you would expect with any risk or procurement program, which is to identify what are those areas of improvement you need to make, how you're going to make them, and then communicate that to the teams that are going to be impacted to develop a cohesive plan, right? This isn't just a departmental initiative. This should be something that grows out of procurement, but embeds itself into the line of business, right? And embeds itself into the organization for key metrics to say, where are we at with our, not only our ESG program overall, but within our sustainable procurement program, how successful is it today? And how are we going to measure that? And then, certainly, establishing those different automation layers is really important, right? Putting this into the workflow that hopefully you already have, but if you don't, automating that micro process within third-party management, overall, is really important. And when you're looking to do sourcing and onboarding, the due diligence aspect of that and setting up that third-party relationship before they sign a contract is so critical. You really want to get that right, and it should be streamlined so that you're not creating that burden of high cycle times to the business where they're not satisfied with trying to get products and services to advance the things that they need to do. And then it's a matter of evaluating, iterating, annually assessing, and improving that program going forward, right? So those are definitely things that we've seen our customers implement here. It is a journey. Different industries, different geographic regions are in different stages. And that certainly is something that we're helping them with along the way, depending on the different levels of pressures that they're seeing. Like I said, from either the investment, the board, their customer base, or the regulators themselves. Okay. Certainly from how can a TPRM solution help? It really is about automation, right? If you can streamline that workflow and connect the dots, bring the data together at the right time, ask the right questions to the suppliers at the right level, and get that understanding that you need to impact behavior or contract terms, or informing the line of business that this is not the right supplier for us for these reasons. Let's pick somebody else. That's where a TPRM solution can help, because it does automate those workflow activities and collects the data so you have a single source of truth to have those conversations with either line of business, with the supplier, with your risk teams, with your procurement teams, or with your ESG teams. These are all really important aspects of getting accuracy and streamlining and reducing cycle times while increasing risk profiling, right? So that's the key in the nugget of value of where, automation can help put these things into motion. Okay. So with that, I think, really look forward to the rest of the sessions. I think that's what we had to talk about today. Hopefully you got some information around that. And with that, I think we can stop and see if there's any questions.
Thank you ever so much for that, Todd. Now we are running out of time. We've literally just got about sort of 35 seconds to a minute. But I do have a question from one of our virtual viewers. This is from Rebecca. So thank you for this question, Rebecca. She asks, are you engaging with the Social Enterprise World Forum Global Verification System?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
So Rebecca's asking if you are engaging with the Social Enterprise World Forum's global verification system used by vendors such as SAP for finding verified suppliers.
Yeah, so we're interacting with SAP, right? We're interacting with those systems that are bringing more data into the fold. So yes, from that perspective, our customers are bringing us into those through those integrations with their enterprise systems. And I think, look, global verification is important, and you want to get to a standard here. I think the development and curation of that data is important. And we want to see continued investment in organizations offering and supplying that information willingly, where it can be consumed by all parties impacted through that process. Yeah.
That's great. Well, sadly, that's all we've got time for
Sure, no problem.
today, Todd. I'd love to be able to take a few more questions, but we do have to press on. But thank you ever so much for your insightful keynote, Todd.
Sure.
And
thank
all
you
the very
much.
best.
Appreciate it. You too. Take care.